Welcome everybody to the dialogue today. We're trying to do this every month with different speakers and topics. And if you'd like to speak in a future dialogue, feel free to sign yourself up. If you got suggestions for other speakers, open to that as well. But this month, without further ado, Matt Bliton is going to lead the conversation. Next month, Deb Plichta will be with us to talk about another interesting topic, and we'll share more about that later, perhaps. Um, so, Matt, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind, and get us started.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm real glad to be here. I have enjoyed the ones that I've seen, um, in in part for the conversation, in part for the equality as a people, and the I also appreciate the topic, and it gave me something to think about. And uh, I'm a retired teacher, so I felt some of that was pushing its way in as well. Laura, I wonder if you could or would share that page, and then I I'm looking. I I tried to ask some questions and make some statements, but I'd like to start with a short meditation. This is from the Buddhist practice. And there's three lines, and let's repeat them. Let's repeat them twice. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May my heart be filled with compassion. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May my heart be filled with compassion. The one of the Message. one of the one of the main uh, influences for this is is the Dalai Lama, and he asked some questions, and I'm going to have to get my page so that I can see it. The He says that if we examine ourselves every day with mindfulness and mental alertness, checking our thoughts, motivations, and their manifestations in external behavior, a possibility for change and self improvement can open within us. What I like about these quotes is that he seems to be uh, telling us what's possible if we're willing. He says, if you, as soon as you wake up in the morning, if you have any interest in spiritual development, you should examine your own mind and try to develop some kind of proper motivation. And he says, then make a strong pledge or determination that in the future, and especially this day, you will live according to your highest goals. When in these these other three, I found uh, fascinating. He talks about self cherishing, and mind training is, well, the self-cherishing attitude obstructs us from generating genuine empathy towards others and limits our outlook to the narrow confines of our own self-centered concerns. He seems to have pretty clear vision about what self-cherishing does. And when I got cherishing is such an interesting word to use. And the it sounds like a nicer way to say egotistic. Um, and he says, the essential point in the teachings of the Buddha is, on one hand, equating an undisciplined state of mind with suffering and unenlightened existence. And on the other hand, a disciplined state of mind is associated with happiness or enlightenment or spiritual freedom. This is the essential point. And it again, his clarity is what attracts me to this. And I got those quotes from the Shambhala Sun several years ago. I also, in thinking about spirituality as a path, as a pursuit, this writer, I thought, captured something as well. The struggle to know who I am in truth and in spirit is the spiritual quest. The movement in myself from mask to face, from personality to the person, from the performing actor to the ruler of the inner chamber. This is the spiritual journey. To live and work and suffer on this shore in faithfulness to the whispers from the other shore in faithfulness is the spiritual life. Looks like I have a typo there, a long line of typo. To live, work, and suffer on this shore in faithfulness to the whispers on the other shore is spiritual life. I, I was interested. I was looking for the author of this, those three quotes, and so I asked AI, and AI seemed to be quoting from this same author. And he says, to struggle to know who you are in truth and in spirit is considered a core aspect of the spiritual quest, as it involves deep exploration of your inner self, seeking a deep understanding beyond just the physical identity, delving into your true nature and connection with something greater than yourself. The any comments, any associations, any thoughts? This question about what is spirituality?
I think there's total 100% agreement on what you've said, Matt. No, if any of these ideas spark a question or you want further clarification or to share a thought, feel free, and we can do that during the dialogue as well.
Good. I don't necessarily think of myself when I think of spirituality, um, because I'm seeing myself through the struggles and through the practices. And today I couldn't find my wallet, and um, and I and so that itself seemed to uh, capture most of my attention and a lot of my self-aggravation. Um, and there, at no time did I think, I think it's time for a good bit of, why don't I do that compassion meditation that I started with? You know, it never crossed my mind. The, and and if we can go back to the questions, I want to get to, um, I want to get to leave us time to, well, I was struck with it. I ran into some teachings of Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and um, in a in the atmosphere that he was in, or they were in, there was a strong sense of being rich and powerful and popular and glamorous was the best thing. And Aristotle taught that the greatest value was to live virtuously. And I I don't know that I was, when's the last time I heard virtuously? And even the word virtue is seems so. What might virtuously mean in our culture? If somebody was showing me what virtue to live virtuously was, what might that look like?
Um, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Deb talking?
No,
Nope.
I just Googled it, but go ahead, Julie.
Oh, to me, right off, I don't know if I will continue with this definition. It means for me to live genuinely,
Nice.
but virtue, I think that is could have a broad definition now that you mention it. That's all I
Just
want.
behavior showing high moral standards.
Thanks.
Hmm.
It goes on to further say virtues are character traits that help people act in ways that develop their potential. They can be moral, social, and intellectual. Virtues can help people determine their principles or guide their behavior. The opposite of virtue is vice.
Hmm.
That's interesting. So people say like those are your vices. I mean, I hear that in conversation. So that must be your bad points or something.
Well, I think it can be very subjective too. Like what could be a vice in your opinion might be a virtue in my opinion.
So they say that examples of virtues are honesty, courage, compassion, generosity, fidelity, integrity, fairness, self-control, and prudence.
Mhm.
Prudence. That might need to be defined.
How about the overlap between virtue and spiritual? Is there any, do you see a connection there? Are they, how separate are they?
Well, when you're trying to live from your highest consciousness level, it would include a lot of those things: honesty, purity, being genuine. I forgot what the other ones are.
Yeah, no. Right. Yeah,
Compassion, loving, acceptance.
one of the
non-judgmental.
one of the challenges that I've had with this is like someone teaching you to be virtuous can sort of backfire if you're taught to sort of live by somebody else's standards versus find your own. So maybe I'm not describing this exactly virtuously, but yeah, finding your own moral compass, I think, is important. And sometimes I've gotten off track thinking I have to behave a certain way, or someone's told me how I should behave or be, and then I kind of lose that center of inner wisdom.
And I wonder if virtue seems, not by definition, but it seems more agnostic than spirituality. There's which might lead to the next question, if you would. This group of questions is about values. Do you believe that plants are worth taking care of by watering weekly or more, and even fertilizing and pruning when necessary? So that would be a value. Do you believe that pets are worth the trouble and responsibility they often entail? That's a different level of responsibility and commitment. And do you believe your friendships are worth attending to? And I guess that would come on some kind of scale. Not that I rate my friends as give them a number of their value to me, but the next part I'm thinking, because those three questions are aiming at sort of responsibility, commitment, time and effort. Would you describe your spiritual practices as being responsibilities? Are they more like a relationship, or more like tools for an interpersonal development? I don't want to have to call on people. The sense of responsibility means, I think, that I want something and I'm willing to work for it. Or and a relationship sounds a little more intimate, possibly. And then tools seems, I guess it feels more distant. Tools for growth.
If you think you should call on someone, just trust your intuition and
Yeah.
we'll forgive you.
Well, I like to say that watering plants and taking care of pets, for a lot of, maybe for a lot of people it's spiritual, but for a lot of people it isn't. For me, my spiritual practices are more like tools for internal and personal development. It's more broad, which could include taking care of my plants and my pets, but it's more about me and how I'm growing spiritually. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. The next question is about, or the next questions are about my relationship with my spiritual practices. are my spiritual practices sometimes automatic habits. Um, I do them in the morning and at night, and uh, I do one I do right before bed and then it's a habit. Um, one of the habits or one of the practices, uh, unfortunately, is in sort of an awkward place to find time for it. So some of them's easy. If I do it first thing in the morning, last part of the day, it's straightforward. My body knows what I'm doing next, and I'm not pushing against it, or I don't need to twist my arm. But the one that's in the middle, I usually remember it, and then there's some resistance, like, wow, I don't want to do that now. Then, then more questions.
Well, this is Julia again.
Yeah.
I try to meditate every day and I try to do it in the morning, but if I can't, then I'll do it before I fall asleep at night. So to me, it's not important, to do it at a certain time or to get into that habit as it gets done. And some meditations are long, others not. Um, some involve, wanting to heal certain aspects of my life. It's just, it's all very different. And I accept that about myself for even, getting into meditating at all.
Thanks, Julie.
Every day it's my intent to do meditation and quiet my mind, body, soul in the morning. Does that always work? No. And then I try to wrangle myself in, like you talked about, Matt, in the middle of the day. And it's like, huh? The intents are there. And I think that as time opens up and making more space for that, it will be very important for me for that.
Thanks, Sue.
I really like the idea. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I like the idea of meditation being meeting what is with compassion. So it's not necessarily just sitting in silence, but whatever's showing up, kind of meeting it with compassion. And so, yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. That just kind of emerged and maybe relates to the statement in the beginning that you shared.
Yeah, thanks. And that those three lines in the beginning, the first one is they can be done aimed towards different things. So one can be for me, one can be for, I might be doing that, wishing that for other people, that compassion, and one could be for political figures. So, but thanks. I'm glad you got back to that point about compassion. And if my goal, which is one of the things that the Dalai Lama talked about, a firm goal to have my heart filled with compassion, then that would seem to have a role in my behavior if I'm thinking about that sort of commitment.
I like that. And I think if I'm ever resisting a spiritual practice or I'm resisting meditation, it's like I'm resisting sitting with what's arising. And so to remember that I can meet whatever arises with compassion takes away some of that resistance to being with it, whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Gonna, I was gonna say, seems to me that compassion seems very similar to forgiveness, as in, forgiveness, at least as stated with the Course in Miracles. Uh, whereas empathy, which is similar to compassion, is more geared towards, your particular helpfulness or attitude towards somebody else's situation, but compassion, it seems more like forgiveness, and that it can, cover just a broader range of things other than just one particular person.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. The 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 wrestling match with my what I expect from in my spiritual practice. I don't think that I've ever regretted maintaining a commitment when I didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, look, just go do it, and then afterwards, it felt like a victory or connection maybe, and getting connection that I didn't imagine that I would get connection. I thought I was just gonna check off the box, but um, there's a couple more questions along that sort of line. Um, yeah, we talked about a little bit about resisting or neglecting our spiritual chores or practices, and um, I was looking at the word service and the word virtuous, because at the time Aristotle was taught, some people were rich and powerful, and that gave them status, and he was saying virtue is more important than status, and it. So I wonder about service in my life, and that's one of the things that came out of this whole process for me was if virtuous includes service, wow, that's a whole new ballpark, because I, my meditation twice a day, or in doing the various commitments, and that's different than service. Service seems to be how am I serving others? How am I contributing to other people and our needs of people, and maybe needs of people I don't know? Wouldn't that be awkward? And so there's this well, maybe it's fortunate, but this notion of service and virtue going together put me at odds with my behavior, at odds with what I think Aristotle was pointing at, and also being in.
What, excuse me.
Do you feel supported or taken care of? We're talking in the context of a spiritual practice. Do you feel supported in ways that others might not be? And again, it's hard to judge other people's how supported they feel. And this number 4 was related to my epiphany. What's missing in my spiritual practice? Is my spiritual practice solitary, and there I might come away with connection, but maybe it's not the same kind of connection I would get if it was a shared practice.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
This is Deb. I just have a kind of a general thought that's coming up here. It has to do with it was triggered by your comment about service in relationship to your meditation practice and your virtue. But if you take a look at the broader oneness, that we all are one with spirit, where self-expression, our own individual self-expression of spirit. But if you approach your daily life from a platform of knowing that you are just a speck of the Great Spirit, and know that by holding your virtues and being at the highest level that you are at, okay, because we're all at different places, you are contributing to the overall oneness, which is only love. So my feeling is that perhaps you can kind of overthink this a little bit. just because I've worked through that myself. And I can remember the words of Beth Monteith when I was in the school of ministry. She told me, just call it good.
Nice.
And so by just trying not so hard for myself, it has brought me closer to the oneness that I can hold throughout the whole day. So, I do have my own routines that connect me with spirit. But throughout my whole day, no matter if I'm at the bank or at Meijer or walking my dog or whatever, knowing that I already come from the platform of being at one with spirit, so therefore I am illuminating the essence of my true being wherever I'm at, takes away from me the feeling of either unworthiness or not doing enough or lacking. It's kind of like at this point in my life, I don't try so hard. I just try to believe that I'm already there. Okay. And that is such a comfort because it allows you to grow from that point and accept what is truly ours. So sometimes we have to just call it good. Yeah, and like Leroy started out saying, we all agree on all this. So we're all of us in this unit right here, in this community that's showing up today. We are at one with spirit together, but we're all an individual's expression of spirit. I don't know if I'm hoping that makes sense because that's how it is for me. Because I think you all know I just had a big birthday and I'm really not going to spend much more time trying to learn. I mean, I've got to move forward now because I can kind of see the end. If that makes sense, I'm not trying to be morbid or anything, but the message that's given to me is that just keep going forward, that you're already enough. You already have, even though you may skip your meditation or you may not eat something that agrees with your body, or you may not exercise enough, you're already enough. And just be the illuminated spirit that you are. And then you're contributing and doing your service to mankind, particularly in this political spirit that we're in right now. That's the only way I'm really surviving.
Deb, I
Thanks, Deb.
I agree with what you said. And when you talk about spirit, to me, if I like say I'm in a grocery line and I allow somebody to go ahead of me, or I compliment somebody and it makes their day. To me, that's an act of service too.
Because you've become one with their spirit,
Yeah,
and you've now complimented, and now it's going on, and yet they themselves might give someone else another smile or
mhm,
be nicer to their child or to their husband or their wife or whatever.
right. There have been studies shown that if somebody witnesses somebody else doing an act of service, they'll pass it forward too.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the person that you're giving it to, but just somebody witnessing it. And when I'm not sure what to do or say, I default to love. I think, what would love have me do or say here? And most of the time it works, for me at least.
Thanks, Julia.
I want to encourage anyone else who wants to chime in, feel free. There's no right or wrong here.
I really liked what you said, Deborah, about the being enoughness. And just if you can center into that feeling of enoughness, then everything becomes a little more fun, a little more interesting. We're not doing this because we have to do this. We're not doing it because um, there's a right or a wrong necessarily. We are enough. If we didn't show up today, that would be okay. If we are here, that's okay. But I really like that. Just it's very simple, but it seems like a very powerful statement.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
It seems for me, it seems gentle. It just seems, it seems for me the only way I can go forward right now because of some of the work I've done recently on the grieving of my husband, and I can't. I've got a new perspective on that, perception on that, and some of the healing that's gone on inside me that has kind of indicated that you're enough. You're enough right now. It doesn't mean that I still don't read all my books. If you were to look around my office, I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of books. And I still read and stuff, but come from the base that you already are enough and that you're at one. And so I don't feel guilty when I don't get my meditation in, or that I may interrupt someone when they're speaking, because I'm still human, and I'm still learning those. But I try not to anymore carry it as a guilt or a judgment of myself, because I've done that for 70 years, you know? So,
Carol Burnett, the comedian, she once said at the end of the day, she tries to think of 3 things that she did to make her life or someone else's life worthwhile. And I think that's a good practice. Maybe they weren't real big things, but it was enough. It was enough for them and enough for me. And I think that it's a good attitude to take.
also what you did for yourself, what you did for, like, I do a lot of resting these days. I spend a lot of time resting, and in my resting, I get meditation in. So even though you might not be calling it a formal meditation, spending time with your human body and connecting with your higher self, and we all know this is not new. Okay, those are all good things we did for ourselves. Or if we ate protein today or did an exercise or something. I just think that we should not beat ourselves up at this point, because we're all being called to move forward in this time. Particularly, I was just reading about the way the planets are all aligning and things are changing. I don't know much about it, but definitely probably everyone in this group can feel some kind of a shift happening. And I think that's a very interesting topic if we could find someone who could present on that to us, Leroy.
Hey, this is a collaborative effort, so if anyone has ideas, feel free to invite. We'll schedule it in. Anybody else who hasn't had a chance to speak want to just throw in a 2 cents?
I just wanted to say thanks for all the great questions, Matt. It's fun to just sit with them and not immediately answer them. So I really appreciate all your questions. They're really, really interesting, thought-provoking.
Yes, thank you.
I will
I just
echo that.
wanted to say I agree with what's been said, and that the spiritual practices I look at as tools to help us remind us that we are enough and that we are loved, and that, yeah, we shouldn't beat ourselves up if we forget to do them or don't get a chance to do them, but that, we just come back to it when it's there for us when we need it. Like, if you accidentally watch the news and get upset, you've got tools to bring you back to that peace.
I find it interesting that if you said, if we accidentally watch the news, how many of you here try not to watch the
Yeah.
6:30 news?
Yeah. I
Finding
actually,
other ways to get our information has been kind of challenging.
Yeah.
The discussion is very helpful for me, specifically because virtue sounds rigid. And I don't, I'm certainly not questioning Aristotle, but but for me, there's this something about being beyond reproach. Make no mistake, get it all right, and I wonder if that's, and I'm thinking of the Dalai Lama's wisdom about the amount of self-cherishing that we do. I'm the most important, make no mistake in my importance and my self-cherishing. I think those might be tangled up together. On the other hand, I told you that I can't find my wallet. So I went to the Y, which is one of the last place that I was yesterday. And I came in with a guy, and we were checking in at the same time, and we got to the locker room, and he talked about where he was from, and so there was just a little connection there. And then I went down to the weight room, and I was just doing a couple things to try to burn off some of the angst about my wallet, and I saw him lifting a ton of weight, and I said, "Wow, looks like you've been in a gym before." And he heard me, and then he smiled, and then I said, "Oh, you saved me, buddy," because it gave me an opportunity to not be thinking about myself. And then as I was going out, I checked in with the guys at the desk and gave them my name and number, and said that I hope I find it. If not, I'm going to blame my wife. And they both thought that was funny. So I don't know if my wife thinks it's all that funny, but again, the little ways to find connection bring me gives me something that I don't get by myself, especially if I'm whapping myself on the head for doing something wrong.
Matt, have you found your wallet?
Let's not talk about it.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I haven't found it yet.
Here's
Look
what
under
I do. Here's
Look
what I
under
do
the
whenever
bed. Look under the bed.
I just want to say what I do whenever I can't find something, and it's going to sound hokey, but it works most of the time. If I'm looking around, can't find something, I ask my higher self to help
nice.
me.
Nice.
And usually within a few minutes or maybe even longer, I find whatever it is I've lost. Just want to bring that up in case you haven't used that yet.
Thanks, Jim.
Good one. Thanks for the tips. You never knew you were going to get so many good tips in one dialogue.
It's actually good for all of us to hear these and answer these questions, you know?
I don't know if the I am enough would work when you're checking out without your wallet, but
Yeah.
right. Oh, Matt, you're muted. Can't hear you, Matt.
If they question that I am enough when I'm checking out, I can tell them that 10 people agreed. It was unanimous that I am enough, and thanks very much.
Yeah. There you go.
Were there any quotes that you wanted me to pull back up from your? I'll share it if you want to. Or questions that you didn't get to yet, Matt?
Matt, I think you're muted again.
Again, I'm so glad that we covered that or talked about that, and it was seen, and I see it different. But what's the hardest part of your spiritual practice? And then this is something missing. And the thought that missing might be not virtuous enough, or missing might be looking at me based on check marks of mistakes and omissions, etc.
Yeah. For me, I have a hard time forgiving myself for my past mistakes. I'm much, much, much better at it now. I mean, we all make mistakes. We all do this. We all do things in our past, you know. But for me, going forward, just try to operate and be from a level that I don't make as many, or look at it differently.
Look at it differently. I'm looking at number 2. Do you feel that you are supported or taken care of? Years ago, there was a video. They were interviewing the woman who channeled Emmanuel. I don't know if any of you read any Emmanuel books. And people were asking her questions. And once one person said, "How do I stay in the present?" And she said, and this goes along with question number 2, just know that you are always safe. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Because you're not worried about the future, you're not thinking about the past, but you know you are safe in that moment, in the moment that we are in.
Thanks, Julia. And after our discussion, I think I might change to or add that, because I heard it seemed like we were talking about connection as opposed to necessarily cared for. Connection being more global. Cared for might mean that my wallet shows up, soon, or something else, like I get something I want. It's the hardest part of your spiritual practice. What's most helpful?
One of my latest has been noticing how easily distracted I can get. so focusing on one thing at a time has been sort of a path back to sanity for me. I think that's one of the feeling like I'm not doing enough, or I didn't get something done, or I need to do these 5 things, that will sometimes undermine my sense of peace, or my sense that I am enough, or my sense that this is where I should be right here and now.
Along those same lines, since I've been retired, I have this huge list of stuff I like to do throughout the day or the month or the season or the year. And I've kind of, the first year I really tried to stick with the list. And now I've kind of given myself the permission to be easier on myself. And so sometimes if it takes me 5 days to clean my bathroom, how I like it, that sounds gross, but I think you know what I mean. That it's okay. Or if I put off mowing my lawn for 1 or 2 days, it's okay. Or that kind of thing. I'm not quite so strict with myself, but I still have a tendency to like critique myself on at the end of the day how much I got done or didn't do. But now I just say, well, that's just the way today was. You know, did you feel peaceful, Debbie? Yes. Did you love your pets? Yes. Were you good service to your neighbors? Yes. So if I can kind of click off all of the good stuff, even though I didn't do physical tasks, then that makes me feel better. But I do know that when I have projects to look forward to, that if I don't stay on task to get them to a level of presentation or completeness, that's when I'm more critical on myself. So I found as I entered into more of this retirement stage that I have less and less of those commitments that I put on myself because I don't like the feeling of not accomplishing them or being stressed out about them.
We have about 4 more minutes. I just want to give Matt the opportunity to address anything that you haven't gotten to yet that you'd like to. And we can certainly continue the conversation longer, but we normally like to keep it to about an hour.
I'm delighted and grateful for the conversation, specifically about self-acceptance and calling it good, and how that seems to have a spiritual quality to it. It's not just me self-promoting. And I want to go back for a minute to the Dalai Lama's quote. It is an essential point in the teachings of the Buddha that on one hand, in equating an undisciplined state of mind with suffering and unenlightened existence, and on the other, the disciplined state is associated with happiness and enlightenment and spiritual freedom. And Deb, you helped me put a different view on this disciplined state, because it seems like you're trying to maintain a commitment with treating yourself kindly, and that your discipline is self-care instead of I won't make any mistakes or I have to get this all done.
Yeah.
So it's a different frame on that word discipline, and a warmer one. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other parting comments from anyone? It's really great to see everyone.
Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you, Matt and Leroy.
Yeah, thank you.
And Matt, thank you.
I always learn something from these.
I love the idea that we're able to dialogue together. It's greatly needed for my awakening and my growth, my journey. Be with my people.
Well, thank you for hosting next month, Deb.
Yeah.
Second Saturday at noon, and talk a little bit about variety of topics.
Connecting
And
with spirit mostly.
that should be an interesting conversation. Any other
Yep.
parting comments?
We could get those meeting notes by 12. No,
No pressure.
just kidding.
Your dad is good at summarizing, let me tell you.
This was really a pleasure to be on the dialogue, and yeah, great questions, great insights, and hope to join more of these.
Good to see you,
Excellent. Great to
Solomon.
see you.
Yeah,
Right.
like
And your sister, but is she still here?
you
No.
said, run
She
for another
checked out.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, really nice to see everybody, and yeah, nice to connect.
I'm a little upset that it's 75 degrees in Bill and Sue's living room. But other than that,
Yeah.
Oh,
No, 78 is probably 80 by now, but
Oh,
where are you? I joined late.
Florida, we're
Oh,
in,
good for you.
yeah. Yeah, we had our week of winter a couple weeks ago. It was awful, but
Oh, in Florida. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
we're got up to 50 and
Poor
came
souls.
down to 50.
Yeah,
yeah, we'd say get up to 50.
Where are you in Florida?
Cocoa along the Atlantic side.
Oh boy.
Yeah. In
Okay.
fact, there's in about 20 minutes, there's a rocket launch going to
Oh.
happen. And sometimes we can see them from our backyard.
Oh,
great.
Good for you. Enjoy your time there.
Yeah.
yes.
Matt,
well, thanks everybody.
It's good to
Nice
connect.
see you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
See you.
Leroy.
Thanks, Deborah.
I'll see you.
Thanks, Leroy.
Thank you so much. That was really good. And I'm gonna shut this down.